This is Garis, masculist, MGTOW flyers, that is 2-3 page essays on the themes of masculism and MGTOW, written by and read aloud by Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. This is flyer number 552, entitled, "What will fully biconscious campuses be like?" Description. This flyer talks about what campuses will be like some years from now once they have become fully biconscious, that is, as aware of masculist ideas as feminist ideas. But to reach that state, it's likely that there will first be a period of bitter, verbally violent confrontation between biconscious masculists and monoconscious feminists, with biconsciousness eventually winning. Now the flyer itself. What will fully biconscious campuses be like? By Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. Email profhugodegaris@yahoo.com. Website profhugodegaris.wordpress.com. I begin by explaining what the term fully biconscious means. It means that pretty well everyone on campus, students, faculty, admin, etc., is as well informed of masculist ideas as feminist ideas. That is, they know that gender oppression is a two-way street. That is, that women oppress men as well, and that in fact women oppress men worse than vice versa, since many of women's gender crimes against men last decades, thus making them a lot more serious than the relatively minor ways that men oppress women. Knowing that masculists see even rape, which is one of the worst ways that men oppress women, as rather small beer in comparison to the many ways that women oppress men that last decades, particularly regarding the big three ways that women oppress men, that is women's manslavery, women's divorce rape, women's forced fatherhood. This flyer asks the question, what will life be like on campus when it is fully biconscious? How will it feel to be a student on campus when feminism is no longer the dominant gender political ideology, and that female students are under strong moral pressure from the male students and even from many of the female students to be biconscious, otherwise be seen as MFBs, that's monoconscious feminazi bigots, and hence morally and intellectually inferior, not to be taken seriously. You may be thinking that I have jumped the gun, since it is obvious that before attaining such a fully biconscious state on the campuses, the transition from the current situation, where feminism is the dominant gender political ideology, to full biconsciousness has yet to occur. And getting to that state of full biconsciousness is probably going to be verbally bloody, when biconscious masculists clash verbally with considerable aggression against monoconscious feminists, who will feel as though they have been hit by a bus, the masculist bus. So this flyer comes in two parts. The first part talks about the transition, how it will occur, and how painful it will be for monoconscious feminists as they lose their monopoly over gender politics and then feel crushed by a very angry, very powerful masculist ideological campaign to bring the gender political pendulum to its lowest balanced point. So, how will the transition occur? Obviously, the first step is to create enough masculists on campus that they are in a position to exert strong gender political ideological pressure on the monoconscious feminists, haranguing them with masculist ideas, masculist rhetoric, castigating them for their bigotry, their one-eyed view of gender politics, and particularly with their monoconscious bigotry, their closed-mindedness to the idea that gender oppression is a two-way street. That is, that women oppress men too, and in fact worse than vice versa, since many of women's gender oppressions of men last decades, making them a lot more serious than the relatively minor ways that men oppress women. It's going to be shocking for monoconscious feminists to be confronted with biconscious masculists who not only answer back to them, but are ideologically hostile, using very powerful, new, masculist arguments that these feminists have never heard before. That will cause a lot of them to suffer real cognitive dissonance, since for many young women, their feminism is effectively their religion, their core belief system, the set of ideas they use to define their life, their identity, their sense of self. Millions of young women have grown up being pumped full of feminist ideas that gender oppression is a one-way street, that men are the oppressors and women are the oppressed. So when they are confronted with very angry, highly intelligent, highly articulate, biconscious masculists who have no patience with the bigoted, monoconscious ignorance of feminists, the verbal aggression and impatience of these biconscious masculists will be very disturbing for these monoconscious feminists, who will not like being told that if they don't soon become biconscious, then they will lose their boyfriends. As masculist ideas spread rapidly across campus, influencing the formerly monoconscious male feminist boyfriends of these monoconscious feminists, who then, with their newly acquired masculism, will become biconscious and then see the monoconsciousness of their feminist girlfriends as bigoted, so will become disgusted with their girlfriends and then dump them. When thousands of female monoconscious feminists get dumped, that will cause a crisis on campus, a panic. And quickly, these monoconscious feminists will learn from the biconscious feminists that to become biconscious is the solution to keeping your boyfriend, since to remain monoconscious is to be seen as being a bigot, a fool, a callous, insensitive feminazi, to be left rotting on the shelf by men. Since women are largely herd animals, they will be a lot more influenced by the biconscious opinions of their female peers than by the masculist arguments of their biconsciousing boyfriends. Then the tide will turn. There will be thousands of biconscious masculists on campus who will be intolerant of monoconscious feminism, and so too will a growing and substantial number of biconscious feminists who have already made the transition to biconsciousness, who are well informed of masculist arguments after many hours of midnight conversations in bed with their biconscious masculist boyfriends, who will be feeling galvanized with their new, very powerful masculist ideas and be keen to spread them, especially to their girlfriends, since if their girlfriends remain monoconscious, these women will be seen as bigots by their biconscious boyfriends, who will be very unhappy with the possibility of losing their girlfriends due to the disgust these men feel towards the monoconscious bigotry of their feminist girlfriends. So these biconscious boyfriends will be strongly motivated to preach masculist ideas to their monoconscious girlfriends, so that their girlfriends become biconscious and hence remain girlfriend worthy. Men don't like losing their source of sex, companionship and nurturing that they get from their girlfriends, so will be strongly motivated to keep their girlfriends gender politically compatible. But if the monoconscious girlfriend remains monoconscious, stubbornly so, then his level of contempt for her callous bigotry, her not giving a shit about the ways that women oppress men, and badly, for decades, for example, women's manslavery, women's divorce rape, women's forced fatherhood, etc., will make him very unhappy and start seeing her as dumpable. These boyfriends, being men, will have an intuitive understanding of masculist ideas, since they are male, having male brains, and will understand the ideas coming from masculists who are also male, having male brains. If these biconscious masculists start feeling real antagonism towards their monoconscious girlfriends, then they will start looking at other women on campus who have already converted themselves into biconsciousness and hence be a lot nicer to be with than having to suffer the constant, bitter, ideological disputes between a bigoted, ignorant, callous, monoconscious feminist, a near-to-be ex-girlfriend, and a sympathetic, biconscious, near-to-be future girlfriend. As this process runs to near completion, that is to saturation, in which nearly all the women on campus had been converted to biconsciousness, then the whole feel of campus will be different, which brings me to the second part of this flyer. So, imagine that nearly everyone on campus is now biconscious. How will it feel? The new biconsciousness will cause many changes on campus. One is that many more women will be studying career competent majors. That will allow them to be FIPs, that's financially independent persons, since the core idea of masculism is that it is a rebellion by men against being man-slaves to women, refusing to work for women for decades of a man's life. Many biconscious masculists on campus will be hurling the highly pejorative label of fluffy crapper towards these women who are studying fluffy crap majors. That will cause them to become fluffies as adults, unable to earn good money in the marketplace since they did not bother to fit up and expect at the back of their minds that some gullible, ignorant man-slave will work for her as a result of her wiggling her twat at him. Those days are over, since the male students will have been masculisted and MGTOW'd, who are well informed of men's lib ideas and will not look kindly at a woman who expects to behave as a fluffy towards him. He will expect any potential girlfriend of his to pull her financial weight, and if she doesn't, then she rots on the shelf. A fluffy can only be a fluffy if she can get her financial claws into some gullible, man-slavable man who is ignorant of masculinity.